In this series, and exclusive to this channel, I'll be taking you through the evidence in full that Lucy Letby gave to the court during her 10 days on the witness stand. The purpose behind this series is to give you, the viewer, a full and factual understanding of the evidence presented to Lucy Letby during her original trial. What you'll hear next is Lucy Letby's cross-examination in court. This took place at Manchester Crown Court and was conducted by Nicholas Johnson, KC. Let's move on to count 8, if we may please, which is September the 21st, 2015. This is the day that child G would have been full term had she remained in utero. Do you remember? Yes. I want to start, if we can, with your defence statement, please. If we can go to paragraph 92, okay? Yes. What you say here is, on September the 21st, 2015, child G vomited at about 10:15. This was not as pronounced as the vomit on September 7th. I think her mother was there. What made you think her mother was there? Because I'd recalled and I'd written in my notes that Mum was visiting around 10 o'clock that morning. The doctors were on the unit, so I went to the nurses' station to ask the doctors who were doing the ward rounds to come and see child G. I did not shout for help because I did not think this was an emergency. Yes. Is that true? Yes. I do not recall her, that is child G, going blue. No. You had seen child G many times on the unit, hadn't you? Yes. Do you agree with her father that after that first incident on September 7th, she was not the same baby? I can't comment on that. Nobody knows their child like the parents do. Why were you feeding her with a nasogastric tube at 9:15? She wasn't awake and she was due her immunisations. What inferences do we draw from the fact that child G was about to have her immunisations? That she was well enough to be receiving them? Yes. Was that a decision with which you agreed or disagreed from what you had seen? Up until the point of the vomit, yes, I agreed with that. Yes. Well, if you hadn't, presumably like you say you did with, was it child Q, you wouldn't have fed him and you would have waited for the doctors, wouldn't you? Yes. So we can work on the basis that when you took over child G's care that morning, she was in a good condition. I remember I had some concerns about her observations, her temperature, but feeding-wise, yes. And what was your concern about her temperature? I think she had an ongoing low temperature. I can't remember specifically. I'd have to check the chart. Well, we will come to it, okay? I just wanted to know what you said first of all. Before we do, though, can we go to the population distribution chart at tile 45, please? Here we see that you had 3 children. Yes. All were in nursery 4. Yes. That Janet Cox, who was a nursery nurse, was working in nurseries 3 and 2. Yes. Did that cause you a problem? That someone of lesser nursing status was in a more elevated nursery? No, because it doesn't necessarily reflect the care needs of the baby, depending on what nursery they're in. Just previously you suggested that whenever a child is in nursery 1, it means they're ITU. But that isn't right, is it? Not every time, no. Did it annoy you that you were in nursery 4? Not at all, no. One of the things that you said in answer to your own counsel was that aspirating from a child's nasogastric tube can interrupt the digestion. If you fully withdraw a large amount, yes. Wouldn't it have made more sense, given that child G was now a full-term baby and this was 9:15 in the morning, to have fed her with a bottle? No, child G was not awake. She was having alternate bottle and tube feeds, and she was due her immunisations. So as part of that process, we rest the baby because they can often become unwell after immunisations. I want to just check that I understood what you said in answer to questions of your own counsel, okay? Okay. You told your own counsel that you remembered giving a feed to child G at 0900 hours. Yes. And you were then shown tile 47. So if we can go to tile 47. This then I think jogged your memory that in fact it was 9:15. Yes. Is that right? Yes. You are then looking at this document that we see, which is J7883. The comments that we see followed the feed. That was what you said. Yes. By that, you're referring to 30 ml times 2 milk projectile vomit. Is that right? Yes. All of the writing after that, yes. I just want to check that we understand what this writing is first. After 30 ml, there's something in a circle. What does that say? That's a D for discarded. Is it 4.2 or 9.2? 9.2. What does that refer to? The blood sugar. It's in the BM column, which is blood sugar. Then bowels opened +++. Yes. Loose and watery green. Yes. Then reviewed by doctors. Yes. Which doctors are we talking about? I can't recall specifically. I think it was Dr. Fielding. So reviewed by a doctor, not doctors. Well, I can't say whether there is more than one. The ward round is done by more than one doctor. I can't be specific. You then said, I cannot be sure if Mum was present at this time. You've referred to a low temperature, haven't you? I think it was low. There was something about her observations, I think, yes. There was. Tile 46, please. Do you see 9 o'clock? Yes. If we scroll down a bit, so keep 9 o'clock at the top, please, Mr. Murphy. Look down the 9 o'clock column. What do we see in the temperature readings? The temperature within the white zone. It's a bit like doctor and doctors. Is it temperature or temperatures? I don't understand what you mean. Do you really not? No. What do you see in that 9 o'clock column against temperature? How many readings have been recorded? 1. I believe that other... I don't know what that is. But the usual way we write a temperature is a dot followed by a left arrow, which is what I've documented there. There are 2 dots in that column, aren't there? There appears to be something, yes. If it isn't a dot, what are you suggesting it is? Just so we can bear it in mind. I don't believe that's me writing a temperature down. That could just be an error, or... I can't explain that. The normal way we write a temperature is to do a dot and then the line coming from it. There's a temperature that's very close to normal, isn't there? Yes, they're both normal, if that. Yes, but the upper one which you appear to be disavowing is exactly the same as recorded by a different nurse at 0600, isn't it? Yes. Did you go back after the event and cook the chart to make it look like child G was declining before she vomited? No. You understand what I'm suggesting to you, don't you? Yes, child G had a low temperature preceding the shift. That's not normal to have a continuing low temperature. The one value that I took is not what I was talking about. I was talking about the general pattern is that she had a low temperature. We know what you said, but I'm suggesting you have altered this chart. I haven't, no. To make the position look as though child G was declining before she vomited. No, if that was her temperature, both of those dots are within the normal range. Oh yes, but the pattern, we've heard from many doctors, haven't we, that you need to look at the way the pattern goes. Yes, you need to look at the context. And we can see the one you recorded at 11 o'clock after child G had vomited and declined, can't we? Yes. And the lower one of the two that you have recorded at 9 o'clock is pretty much on a straight line between the 6 o'clock and the 11 o'clock one, isn't it? Yes. Whereas the other one is not. 3 o'clock, is it? The 3 o'clock? Sorry, I can't. Don't worry. I think it's the 3 o'clock. It's in the yellow, and that's the same, yes, at 11 o'clock. We've got 2 in the 3 o'clock, as it happens. Anyway, at 6 o'clock, we've got one that's up close to the normal line, which is 37, is it, or 36.8? Potentially somebody else has misdocumented 2 temperatures then. Yes, absolutely. I'm more interested in what you have misdocumented. I haven't misdocumented anything. The projectile vomit you recorded at 10:15, is that right? Yes. Can we see tile 50, please? At 10:15, 2 large projectile milky vomits. Yes. Then you record brief self-resolving apnea and desaturation to 35%. Yes. Which we have heard is a life-threatening level, potentially. Yes. With colour loss, NG tube aspirated, 30 ml of undigested milk discarded. This is 30 of the 40 or 45 that had been given at 9:15. Yes. Plus 2 large projectile vomits. Yes. And despite all that, and despite the vomiting, the abdomen was still distended. Yes. It's not an innocent coincidence, is it, that child G vomited and had to have a lot of milk removed from her an hour or so after you documented having fed her? It's not a coincidence. No, it's not an innocent coincidence. Yes, it is. Just going back to your defence statement, please. Back to paragraph 92 that I asked you to read out before, or I read out for you. Yes. Child G vomited at about 10:15. It wasn't as pronounced as the vomit on September 7th. I think her mother was there. The doctors were on the unit, so I went to the nurses' station to ask the doctors who were doing the ward round to come and see child G. I did not shout for help because I did not think this was an emergency. Yes. Correct? Yes. You have sought to minimise what happened to child G, haven't you? No. Let's look at Dr. Fielding's note, please, at tile 51. Child G had an episode at about 10:20, so he puts a slightly different time on it to you. Okay. Where she had 2 projectile vomits witnessed by nursing staff, after which she was apneic for about 6 to 10 seconds, went blue, sat down to 30. Yes. Nurse called for help. It's not the picture you paint, is it? No. And is that because you are seeking to minimise what you did? No. Child G didn't need any intervention. It was a self-resolving apnea. If we go to tile 111, please. This is you talking to your pal, Nurse A, later that evening, isn't it? Yes. At 21:20? Yes. And you're talking about child G here, aren't you? Yes. But let's just go back, if we can, just to put this into context. Let's go back to tile 106, which I reminded you of earlier. So, due date today, you were telling Nurse A. Then Nurse A responded straight away at tile 107. She likes to celebrate the big ones in style. Followed immediately by, when was she screened if being cold for 24 hours? Yes. So that's a reference back to the low temperature, isn't it, that I say you deliberately misrecorded? No, it's due to having low temperatures over a 24-hour period that we saw on the charts that are in the yellow. Then at tile 109, due immunisations today too. I got her screened this morning after she vomited. Yes. And Nurse A responded, was she still in 4 then? And you say, yeah, and had NN all weekend. What does that mean? She had a nursery nurse looking after her all weekend. Yes. Then what did you write? Looked rubbish when I took over this morning. Then she vomited at 9 and I got her screened. There are 2 lies there, aren't there? It's not a lie. I've miswritten the time. Yes, it shouldn't be 9 a.m, but I don't believe she looked herself when I took over. No, and her mum commented on that. I'm sorry, but we established at the beginning of this process that child G was in good condition when you took her over. I don't remember being asked specifically about her colour. Well, let's look at Valerie Thomas' nursing note at tile 44. This is written just as you were coming on. Is that right? Yes. Observations satisfactory. Temperature well wrapped up. Free feeds using own bottles. Completed bottles but had 1 NGT feed. To rest. Settled later after 21:15 feed. Fed by dad. Has passed urine and bowels open. Medication given as prescribed. Routine bloods taken this morning at 6 and sent to lab for immunisations. Let's look at the original just to check we've not missed anything. No suggestion of child G looking rubbish, to use your word there, is there? No. Your nursing note at tile 48. Any suggestion that child G looked rubbish before she had this incident at 10:15? No. I've commented that she's pale. I've not used the word rubbish in clinical notes, no. Were you trying to persuade your mates on the unit that this was just one of those things that had happened to a child who was sickening for an infection? Can you say that again, please? Were you trying to create in the minds of your co-workers the impression that this was a child who was sickening for an infection? No, I wasn't suggesting anything. I was just saying what had happened. Did you put the time back to 9 o'clock because you were trying to create the impression that it happened nearer handover than it really did? No, it's an error. I agree it said 9 o'clock when it should have been 10, but that has nothing to do with handover or anything like that. No. With child Q in mind, if she really did look rubbish, why didn't you ask for a medical review before you fed her at 9:15? I don't think she did look rubbish as such. I put she's pale, and I know Mum had commented she didn't look as well as the previous day. But Mum hadn't even arrived by the time you fed her, had she? Not by the time I fed her, no. No, so you can't blame Mum for this one. I'm not blaming Mum at all. It was a comment she made. What comment did she make? Child G didn't look as well as the previous day. I think that comment actually came from you, didn't it? No, I believe that came from Mum. Let's go back, if we may, to Dr. Fielding's note then, at 10:30, tile 51. At the bottom there, it's talking about child G's distended abdomen. You see what looks like a shield has been, yes, representing abdomen. So, distended, staff think perhaps more so than usual. Mum unsure. Yes. So what Dr. Fielding has recorded is Mum doesn't know. It's the staff, that's you, saying that child G looked worse. No, this is in regards to distension of the abdomen. Oh yes, it's all to do with the condition of child G, isn't it? Yes. And Dr. Fielding has written down at the time that this is a suggestion being made by you, not by Mum. By staff, yes. Yes. But in your nursing note, this becomes a concern expressed by Mum, not by you. Yes, and that's what I believe happened. Yes, and you are passing off responsibility to other people, aren't you? No. In the notes? No. Making it look like this information is all coming from other people and not from you? No. To make it look like you are doing nothing wrong? No. Whereas in fact you are the person causing all these problems? No, I'm not. If you'd like to close up those interviews, please, and go back to the defence statement. We're at paragraph 93, please. Yes. From 93 to 96 inclusive, you deal with the incident that happened in Nursery 4 at about 15:30 on the afternoon of September 21st. Yes. Just going to read parts of this out to you, starting at paragraph 93. Later, once child G became unwell, the doctors decided to put a cannula in and screen her. This was in Nursery 4. I had other babies in Nursery 4, so I did look round the screen to check on child G and saw that she was on her own, on the procedure trolley with the monitor turned off. She looked blue and I called for help and started neopuffing. Nurse B came to help. This was some hours after the vomit. Is that how it appeared? Yes. And is it correct? Yes. Paragraph 94. I do not think that the probe that connected child G to the monitor was attached. Sometimes the doctors take the probe off or switch off the monitor when doing a procedure. Is that what it says? Yes. And is this correct? Yes. Paragraph 95. After this incident, Nurse B and I had a lengthy conversation about what had happened, and I told her that the doctor had left child G on the trolley and this should be reported. Nurse B did not want to do this. Is that what it says? Yes. And is it correct? Yes. Finally, staff on the unit didn't like to report issues that the doctors got wrong. Is that true of you? No, my general opinion is that the staff in general didn't comment on doctors doing anything wrong. What about you, though? I don't know what you mean. Did it bother you, reporting doctors for getting things wrong? Yes. Dr. Gibbs had left child G on a procedural trolley with the monitor off and the screens up. Nurse B did not want to report this. So is that what it says? Yes. Is it accurate? Yes. Right. When child G collapsed on this occasion, as a matter of fact, all other medical professionals, that is doctors and nurses, other than you, were out of the room, weren't they? Yes, when I found child G, yes, there was nobody there. That you would say is, what, an innocent coincidence? Yes. What you said to your counsel is that I recall child G had been behind the screen for a prolonged period whilst the doctors were trying to cannulate her. Is that right? Yes. And that you were preoccupied, I think you said, with the babies that you were caring for in the same nursery. Yes, I had no involvement with that cannulation procedure. No. But it goes a bit further than that, doesn't it? That you were preoccupied with the babies that you were caring for. Yes. Let's deal with that point first of all. If we go back to the neonatal review, please, and we're now in the second one for child G, which is counts 8 and 9. The front it says, NNU Review Schedule Event 8. Yes. So if we go to page 7 of 9, if you would please, we can see this desaturation is marked at line 287. Can you see that? Yes. We can see what you were doing in the preceding hour and a half on this page, can't we? Yes. So starting at 1400 hours, 90 minutes before this event with child G, you did observations for the child OR. Yes. And just to remind ourselves, OR, of course, is rooming with its parents. Yes. Next event is line 270 at 1449. Again, OR? Yes. Rooming with parents and e-prescription, an update made on the computer by you and Caroline Oakley. Yes. Caroline Oakley is, as a matter of fact, looking after 2 children in nursery 2. Then the event immediately or most proximate to child G's collapse is at 272, isn't it? Yes. This is in relation to a child RH. Yes. Who we can see from page 2 of 9 was one of Caroline Benion's children in nursery 2. Right. Well, do you agree? Yes. So do we agree that you were not preoccupied with the children, your other children, in nursery 4? No, I don't agree with that. Just because we're not signing an observation chart doesn't mean that we're not doing things with the families or the baby. Okay. You say that it's common practice to look behind the screen. Is that right? Yes. And I think the way you phrased it was, I happened to catch sight behind the screen and saw that child G was on her own. Yes. She was dusky blue and not breathing. Yes. The monitor was not on. That's what you said? Yes. What you said in answer to questions from your own counsel was that when you saw child G, she was dusky blue and not breathing. Is that true? Yes. You said the monitor was not on. No, it wasn't on. That you picked her up? Yes. You put her in a cot? Yes. And you started to neopuff her? Yes. Then you called for help? Yes. You said that the neopuff wouldn't have stretched to the procedure trolley? No, that's right. You said that Nurse B froze and that she went to get Caroline Benion? Yes. Was Nurse B the first person that answered your call for help? Yes. And you said that you were very concerned by what had happened? Yes. That the child shouldn't have been left behind the screen? No. Shouldn't have been left on a procedure trolley? No. And neither should she have been left without a monitor on? That's right. And that you wanted to put a Datix form in? Yes. But Nurse B said she would deal with it? Yes. One of the things that you don't mention in your defence statement that I've just taken you through is moving child G from the procedure trolley to the cot. Okay. Why is that? I can't answer that now. I just know at the time that child G was on the procedure trolley and it wasn't near the neopuff on the wall. I had to move her. It wasn't that you had moved her to the cot and you had taken the opportunity to sabotage her. No. Knowing that the doctors had left her behind the screen. No, child G was on the trolley and I put her into the cot. You took advantage of a situation that presented itself, didn't you? No. Just let's think about that. You've already told the jury that you're in nursery 4. I can't recall specifically what I was doing. She was there for a prolonged period of time behind the screen, but yes, I was in and out of the nursery, yes. I'm sorry, but what you said in the defence statement was this, and we've been through it once, but I'll go through this little bit once more. Later, once child G became unwell, the doctors decided to put a cannula in and screen her. This was in nursery 4. Yes. I had other babies in nursery 4, so I did look round the screen to check on child G. Yes. You said earlier, when I was asking you questions, that you were engaged with those other children in nursery 4. Yes. And that was the reason why we went through the other material from the neonatal review to see what, if any, other children elsewhere you might have been dealing with in the lead-up to this time at 15:30. Yes. We have established, haven't we, that you had no other responsibilities elsewhere but in nursery 4. Yes. And so when Doctors Gibbs and Harkness were cannulating child G, you were in the room? At times, yes. No, all the time. No. Why were you out of the room? Well, I've done things here for another baby at 1500. I wouldn't be predominantly in the nursery the whole time. What have you done for another baby at 1500? An entry on the fluid balance chart at line 272? Yes. That's it? How long does that take? 5 minutes? I can't say without looking at what it was that I did. Very well. Could we have J29112 on the screen, please? So you can see 1500 hours under where it says 16.5 mil per hour. Yes. And do you accept that that is the work of 5 minutes at most? Yes. At 3 p.m? Yes. So it follows that if the time is correct, you were in nursery 4 for at least 25 minutes prior to noticing that child G had collapsed. I can't say that definitively, no. Well, what time frame would you put on it? I can't recall specifically. I was in and out of the nursery throughout the day. What else were you doing? There are many things that we do on the unit that is not based purely at the baby's cot side. But I'm going to suggest to you, you see. Do you remember Dr. Gibbs and Dr. Harkness said that if the nurse with responsibility for the child, and by this stage it was nurse B, wasn't it? Yes. If she wasn't in the room, they would have told another nurse in the room that they had finished. Yes, that's what they said, yes. And if they're right about that, that would have been you, wouldn't it? Yes, but that's not right. How do you know that's not right? I do not recall at the time being told by the doctors they had finished with child G and that I needed to put her back in the cot. That's why I'm suggesting to you that you took advantage of a situation when other people weren't around. No, that was how I found child G. And because you hadn't worked out exactly what you were going to say about this, just going back to your defence statement, that's why you don't mention at all putting child G back into the cot, do you? I think that's a minor issue in terms of what was actually going on with child G at that point. The fact she has been left inappropriately on a trolley. Well, that would be a terrible thing to do if no one was in the room and no one had been told, wouldn't it? Yes. Whereas if you were in the room and you had been told, it would put it into a rather different... No, I disagree. The screens were still around child G. It would be up to the doctors to put those screens away and ensure that child G was back in a safe position in the cot with her monitor on. That's why I'm suggesting you took advantage of a situation that presented itself and you sabotaged child G. I disagree. For a third time. No. Well, let's move on to the case of child H, please. If we take that picture down, Mr. Murphy, thank you. Do you remember child H? Yes. Very memorable, wasn't she? Yes. Because of the chest drains? Yes. You know, don't you, that we make 2 allegations of attempted murder against you? Yes. Counts 10 and 11, which relate to 2 episodes of cardiac arrest in the early hours of the 26th and 27th of September. Yes. Do you have a memory of child H independently of the notes? Yes, some. You remembered one particular detail, didn't you? That someone had had to courier chest drains from the Liverpool, from Arrow Park, I think it was you said? Yes, after the event, not on the night of child H's collapse. Is that a reflection of how good your memory is, that you can remember little details like that? Yes, it was discussed widely on the unit that it was not acceptable, and we needed to get some couriered in. Yes. Did you datix that? I can't recall. I'd have to check. You had one of the handover sheets for child H, didn't you? Under your bed? Yes. And you told the jury on the 15th of May that you didn't know it was under your bed? No. That's not true, is it? Yes, it is. Another thing that you said in answer to questions from your counsel, and if we could just put this up, please. It's in the child H sequence, and it's tile 309. Do you remember this one to Yvonne Griffiths? Really nice to hear, as I gather you are aware of some of the not-so-positive comments that have been made recently regarding my role, which I have found quite upsetting. Do you remember that? Yes. Do you remember what it was you told the jury that lay behind that? It was in relation to myself and Shelley Tomlins, who were newly QIS trained, having babies like child H. Yes. I think the way you put it on the 15th of May was, some of the existing staff were not overly happy with people like myself and Shelley Tomlins having babies in nursery 1. Yes. Who? I can't recall specifics, but it was a general conversation with certain band 6s at that time. Which band 6s? I can't recall specifically who. Are you not naming names, in case they would contradict you? No. I think you also said that this bad feeling, if that's the right way of putting it, that's my word, not yours, okay? I'll use that phrase. This bad feeling stopped after this point. Is that right? I recall this was specifically in regards to child H, yes. So again, it's my word, so I'll take responsibility for it. But any bad feeling from the band 6s was simply related to child H, was it? No, there was some general concern, but this that I'm talking about here is specific to child H, yes. Right. Let's just look at who the band 6s were who were on if we can. If we go to tile 177, please. This is the first time child H collapsed this shift. Yes. It's not nurse A, is it? She's your mate. No, I'm not talking about the staff that were on duty that night. Well, how would anyone who wasn't on duty know that you had child H? It was commented on by the day staff. How would the day staff? Why would the day staff be interested that you had child H? The day staff allocate who's looking after which patients. So because they don't want you to have child H, they allocate you child H. It wasn't a don't want. It was a comment that potentially other people needed the experience more than Shelley and I did. Right, let's look at this. Who of the nurses on needed the experience more than you or Shelley? I'm not saying that it happened on this shift here, but you are. You said it was all to do with child H. Yes, but not this specific shift and time. Are you now trying to avoid answering the question when I ask you for particulars of an answer that you gave earlier in answer to your counsel? No. Because you're lying about that, aren't you? No. Were people talking about you being associated to the collapses of lots of children at different times? No, not at all. Is that the negative comments that you're talking about at tile 309? No. Were people starting to notice that you were associated to lots of different collapses? No. Can we go back to your defence statement, please? Paragraph 97. I did nothing to harm child H. I have little recollection of matters relating to child H outside what is recorded on the medical notes. I do recall that she was not sedated and she moved a lot. Is that right? Yes. Is that an explanation for why her drains might move? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I recall that she did used to move around. Yes. Yes. But we can all see that's what you say. What I'm interested in, and what I'll be very much obliged if you would answer, is the reason why you put that in this document. That potentially, yes, she could have dislodged one of the drains. Why not just agree when I ask you the question the first time? Okay. I had never seen a chest drain on a baby at the Countess of Chester before child H, and I've never seen 3 chest drains on a baby at the same time. I'm not sure how familiar all the staff were at the Countess of Chester with chest drains. Fluid came from the chest drains for the whole of her time at the Countess of Chester NNU. The drains were only taped in place, so they were not as secure as if they had been sutured. That's the same point, isn't it? Yes. I question how familiar the doctors were with the use of chest drains. What grounds did you have for questioning how familiar the doctors were with chest drains? There was often discussion amongst the doctors about how to manage drains, and they often sought advice from the consultants about the drains. Right, so by doctors you're referring to non-consultants? Yes, and they would ask advice from their senior colleagues, yes. Registrars and house officers regularly ask advice from their senior for guidance from their senior colleagues, don't they? Not in how to conduct a procedure, no. Dr. Harkness had to receive advice over the phone from Dr. Gibbs when fitting the chest drain. Yes. So that's the first of the chest drains, isn't it? The first of the three. I'm not sure specifically which drain. We know Dr. J-Ram, we'll come to it, but I think Dr. J-Ram inserted the second chest drain. Do you remember? I can't remember who inserted which drain now off the top of my head, no. Do you see count 10 is an allegation of attempted murder on September 26th? Yes. So just keep that open, but go back to your defence statement, please. Paragraph 101, count 10, okay? Have you got that? Yes. This is an allegation of attempted murder in the early hours of September 26th. Yes. Your paragraph 101 says, I don't recall any specific episode of desaturation during the night shift of the 25th to 26th of September. Yes. Then count 11 is a very similar allegation of attempted murder, albeit it's on the next night shift, so this is September 27th. Yes. These are two night shifts, consecutive night shifts that you were working. Yes. And so far as count 11 is concerned, what you say is this. I do recall that on the 26th to 27th of September, child H deteriorated rapidly. I was with nurse A. Do you agree? Yes. Then you say, as further detail, in my memory, both nights merge into one. I cannot be specific about what I did during either of the collapses. However, on the 26th to 27th of September, and this is count 11, I was looking after another severely disabled baby, and my focus would have been on him. I may have signed for some medication for child H, but I did not administer this. Is that correct? Yes. So is that what the document says? Yes. And is it a correct reflection of what you say about this? No, because I now know, looking at the paperwork, that the baby was born later into the shift. Right. So the severely disabled baby that you are talking about was born later? Yes. Okay. Off the top of your head, do you know the baby's initials? Yes. Would you tell them to us? L.O. L.O. Then at paragraph 104, I do not recall that any discoloration to child H was the same as that on other babies. Yes. Then 105, I do not think child H was given surfactant at birth, although she should have been. Yes. Is that right? Yes. Now, other than the reference to L.O. and to your mistake, is there anything else in that material that I have just read out to you with which you now disagree? No. So let's examine the occasions one by one, if we may please. So far as count 10 is concerned, child H's desaturation and cardiac arrest in the early hours of September 26, 2015, are you suggesting that staffing levels caused or contributed to that event? No. Are you suggesting that medical competence or incompetence contributed to it? I'm not sure of the exact details of this date. All right. What about anybody's mistakes? I question whether some of the drains were securely put in. Okay. So an issue about the security of the drains. Yes. You didn't deliberately misplace the drains, I don't suppose, did you? No. If they became displaced, you say that's down to the default of somebody who fixed them? No, potentially it is, yes. I've only ever seen them stitched in. I've never seen them just stuck down with tape. Do you agree that child H was born in good condition? I can't comment on that right now without seeing. All right, we'll help you. Tile 5, please. It says there, this is the note of Dr. Matthew Neame. It says, born in good condition. Yes. Do you dispute that? No. After all these events, or the two events in particular with which you are charged, do you dispute that child H, her condition, improved dramatically once she got out of the Countess of Chester? No, her condition did improve. Right. I'll just remind you of some of the chronology, like Mr. Myers did. It's a slight repetition, but it may help you. The first chest drain was inserted on the 24th of September by Dr. Harkness at about 1000 hours. Okay? Okay. That was to deal with a tension pneumothorax, right? Okay. The night shift of the 24th into the 25th, you were Child H's designated nurse, weren't you? I'll take your word for that. I can't say from memory now. Tile 40 of the sequence, here we see that you were the designated nurse on this shift. We see your retrospective nursing note written at 0821 on the morning of Friday the 2nd. Yes, thank you. That's why I'm suggesting that you were Child H's designated nurse. Yes, I accept that, thank you. Just to remind you, it was on this shift at 0145 that your friend Dr. Ventress inserted a butterfly needle. Do you remember that? Yes. Dr. Verhees intubated Child H at 0245. Okay. And Dr. J-Ram at about 0300 inserted the second chest drain in the 7th intercostal space. Okay. Do you remember that? And there was quite a lot of evidence about whether or not that was an appropriate place to put a chest drain. Yes. That it was not a pigtail chest drain, it was a more old-fashioned version of a chest drain. That's right, yes. Okay, so that just puts it into context. I'm going to move on now to ask you about what happened on the following night shift of the 25th into the 26th. I can start from the beginning tomorrow, my lord, or deal with a few preliminary questions now in the remaining 2 minutes. No, I think we'll do it of one piece tomorrow for the sake of a few minutes, so we'll come back to that tomorrow. Overnight, have you thought of anything that you have previously said that you would like to amend or add extra detail to? The only thing, you asked me yesterday if the datics have been completed about the chest drains, and I can confirm it was done. Right, and that's by you? Yes. And you remember doing that, do you? Sorry? You remember doing that? I've seen the datics on the system. Right. We'd got to count 10, which I can see from here is still open on the desk in front of you. I don't know whether the jury have it. It's behind divider 1 in jury bundle 1. This is an allegation of attempted murder on the 26th of September 2015. You were, of course, on duty on the night shift of the 25th into the 26th, weren't you? Yes. I was asking you whether the staffing levels had in any way, in your view, contributed to Child H's collapse on this shift. No. The second was whether somebody's medical incompetence had contributed in any way to Child H's collapse. Yes, I think potentially with the management of her chest drains, yes. And by management, what do you mean? The insertion of them and how they were secured. Right. What is it about the insertion of them that you suggest was deficient? I'm not saying it was deficient, but I think it has been accepted that there were issues with the drains throughout the trial. It's come to light. That's not the question. The question, if you wouldn't mind, is what are you suggesting it was about the management, the insertion to use, they may not have been correct because there was a lot of discussion needed on how to insert the drains. Does it come to this then? Because you are saying there was a lot of discussion amongst the doctors about inserting the drains, that means that there is a problem with the drains. Potentially, yes. So that I can understand. We can all understand what you are suggesting. What are you suggesting was the problem? That potentially Child H's pneumothoraces were not treated appropriately. Right. And that is because of what? Lack of experience in using multiple drains of different types that nobody seemed particularly confident to use. Which particular doctor or doctors are you suggesting lacked the experience required? Multiple doctors? Well, yes, but Dr. Harkness, Dr. J-Ram, Dr. Gibbs, Dr. Ventress even, yes. Now, can we go back to tile 27, please? This is something that you dealt with in answer to questions from your own counsel some time ago now. We can see that it's dated a couple of days earlier, on September 24th at 09:15. Yes. Just so that we can understand the connection or the relevance or potential relevance of this text sent to your friend Nurse E, are you suggesting there was anything unsafe going on in the unit on the shift that we are dealing with now? In other words, the shift that began on the 25th into the 26th of September. No, this is referring to a different time. So it's not relevant, is that right, to child H's collapse? No, because she was one-to-one nursed at that point. Yes. Now, a short time ago, when I was asking you about your friend Nurse A, and I was making the point with you that she was truly supernumerary, you suggested that she was in some way responsible for helping you with child H. Yes. What are you suggesting about her function on that the role of a supernumerary shift leader is to support staff on the unit with medications and anything that would need to be done? And particularly with child H, I was unfamiliar with chest drains, and Nurse A played a part in assisting me with child H's care. Right. Did you not have experience of chest drains? Not a lot of experience, no. I thought you said you'd dealt with them at Liverpool. I have, yes, but I've not had a lot of experience with them at the Countess of Chester, no. Did you suggest to anybody at the beginning of this particular shift that in some way your knowledge or experience was deficient? No, I don't think it was deficient. I think it was raised that I didn't have a lot of experience, and part of that was that Nurse A was supernumerary and would be able to assist me. And what are the tasks with which she was assisting you? Well, I can't recall specifically now, but it would have been medications, and I know when she had further chest drains put in, Nurse A helped me with the insertion and setting up of those drains with me. Right, let's deal with those two issues then. Medication she'd have to co-sign with you. Somebody would have had to have co-signed medication with me, yes. And that would be true of any child, wouldn't it? Yes. So there's nothing exceptional about child H in that respect? No. So far as the insertion of a chest drain was concerned, which particular chest drain are you suggesting she assisted you with? The drain that was inserted on the night of the 26th? Yes. This is Dr. Gibbs' chest drain, is that right? Yes. So this was at 02:15, is that right? Yes, I don't know the time right now, but I think there are two times in the documents. One is 02:10, one is 02:15 in the early hours of the 26th. Okay. What I'd like you to concentrate on, if you would please, is that was after child H had collapsed, wasn't it? Yes. And what I'm interested in asking you about, and what the jury may be interested in, is what led to her collapse, all right? Okay. So let's concentrate on that time if we can. So between 2000 hours and 0200 hours or thereabouts. Yes. We've got a period of about 6 hours, give or take. Yes? Yes. Does it come to this, that so far as the assistance you were getting from Nurse A was concerned, that was limited to co-signing for medications? I can't say without reviewing the charts. Well, have you looked? You clearly looked at the charts last night because you raised an issue when I asked you to clarify anything you've already said. Yes. Have you looked at the charts overnight? Yes, but I can't remember every detail, and I think it would be unrealistic if I could remember every single detail. Well, you said in answer to your own counsel, or you gave the impression, that she was in nursery 1 with you, helping you with child H all the time. I did not say she was there at all times, no. What are you saying, so we understand? That Nurse A was supernumerary, and she did help me throughout the evening. I can't be specific at what time or what she actually did at certain times, but she was with me on and off throughout the shift. And that would all be documented on the charts, wouldn't it? Not all of it, no. Well, what sort of thing wouldn't? If she's with me to give verbal advice, or if she's helping me do something that I've then signed for on the chart, it would not necessarily have her signature. But she gave me a lot of verbal advice that night. About what? About the management of child H. In particular, in what respect? In management of her chest drains, and then when she collapsed, it was information about baptism and things like that. For the time being, let's concentrate on what caused child H's collapse, all right? Okay. Do you remember that child H collapsed in the early hours of the 26th? I don't recall specific details. I know she did collapse, yes. Do you remember hearing the evidence of child H's father? Not in detail, no. Well, it was read to the jury by agreement on the 18th of January this year. And of course, this is a statement you have had available to you for a couple of years now, isn't it? Yes. Yes. what the father of child H said, and I'm going to read to you directly from his statement, all right? Okay. He was talking about his daughter, and he said, she was in an incubator and was on CPAP to help her breathe. So he spent time in there from Tuesday onwards and on the Friday. And we're talking about a Friday, aren't we? September 25th. Yes. On the Friday, I'd been there late with the mother of child H's mum. So that's his mother-in-law. I'd been there late with the mother-in-law until about midnight, and we'd come back to the house, and I was awoken by her in the early hours. Okay? Okay. So that's the father of child H's agreed evidence that on this shift, for which we saw the population distribution at tile 177, he was there until just before midnight, or thereabouts. Yes. Do you remember what time the doctors were called to child H? No, I don't. That night for the first time? No. Just before midnight at 23:50. Okay. Would like to look at your nursing note for this occasion. It's tile 208, please. Given that it's your note, would you read it through for us to remind yourself of what it was you wrote? Written for care given from 2000 to present. Emergency equipment checked, fluids calculated. Child H nursed in an incubator, ventilated with size 3.5 ET tube, 8 centimeters at lips. Ventilator settings gradually increased during shift in line with blood gas and clinical picture. Currently 24/4. Inspiratory time 0.45, rate 60 in 28% oxygen. ×2 chest drains in situ at start of shift. Intermittently swinging. Serous fluid ++ accumulating. 23:30, bradycardia and desaturation requiring neopuff in 100% to recover. 10 mil, I assume that's there, aspirated from chest drain by registrar ventris. Following poor blood gas and 100% oxygen requirement, consultant Gibbs attended the unit and inserted a third chest drain. Let's just stop it there, because that takes us up to and including the time of the first desaturation, and indeed the second desaturation when Dr. Gibbs was called to help, all right? Okay. Do you agree with that? Yes. Can we look at the time that you created that record, please? Can you confirm that you began to write it at 04:14 and you closed it at 04:28? Yes. And I'm going to suggest to you that you misrepresented the time of this event. Okay? Okay. So I'm going to suggest this is another occasion where you have deliberately misrepresented the facts. Okay? Okay. This is an event that happened just before midnight at about 23:50, isn't it? I don't recall. From my notes there, I've said 23:30. Where would you have got that information from when you wrote it down at 04:14? Either notes that I've made myself or any medical records, yes, or anything on the charts relevant to that time. We've seen many medical records, haven't we? Yes. Written in varying degrees of legibility by varying medical practitioners. Yes. And they were available on paper for you to consult if there was any doubt in your mind about when something had happened. Yes. Dr. Ventris, for it was she who was called at 23:50, had made a note and you could have looked at it and used it to create your own note, couldn't you? At the time, if she had written a note prior to this, then yes. All right. Let's see what you were writing on the manuscript notes, because these will be relevant as well. If we can go to tile 199, please. I'd like to start with your entries. Do we see the first entry that you made as being at 2100 hours? Yes. The second in the 2200 hours column? Yes. What does that read, please? 2210, DSAT 52% during. Heel prick? Yeah, heel prick. SHO present, serous fluid ++, 2 drains. Yes. SHO present. Who was the SHO that you were referring to here? I can't recall from memory. Well, there was an SHO on duty that night called Jessica Scott. Okay. We can see it at tile 177. Okay. The SHO wasn't present. Was she? Yes, that's what I've written there. Is there a note in the medical notes from the SHO about this desaturation? I don't know. Oh, I think you do. There isn't. Is there? I don't know. Serous fluid times 2 drain. Yes. You then write in the 2300 hours column, blood commenced at 2305. Yes. Is that your writing as well? Yes. Then in the midnight column, Brady desat 2330. Yes. 10 mil air aspirated from flutter drain. From flutter drain. Then there's an upward arrow. Yes, it's increased the ventilator pressure to 24/4. Then to the right of that box, what does it say in the next box? Clear. Well, all of the writing. You interpret whether you do them individually as different boxes or as a unit, the totality of that material. I can't see without looking at the columns. I'm assuming it's clear, either orally or I can't see the column it represents, but there's small blood stained, and then beneath that it says clear. Yes. Is it plus clear? Plus small blood stain, plus clear. But I'm not sure which column that refers to. This is all in the midnight column. Yes. I'm talking about the row that would be on the left-hand side, I think, where it indicates if it's OP. Here we are. Suction, the top bit is suction on ET produced small blood stained was plus clear. So that's looking into the mouth is clear. The airway was clear. I've had clear fluid. So here we have another child under your care who's producing blood-stained secretions in their throat. Is that right? I think if it's come from the ET tube, it wouldn't necessarily be the throat. If the ET tube is in the lungs, I presume it's from there. Yes. Had you interfered with child H's ET tube? No. Moved it around a bit to destabilise her? No. Can we look at your defence statement, please, to try and put this into a bit more context? Have you got the document? Yes, it's here. This is paragraph 101, isn't it? Yes. What did you write of these events on this night? I wrote, I don't recall any specific episode of desaturation during the night shift of the 25th into the 26th of September. Yes. You then go on, I think, as we established yesterday, to say that the following night, the 26th to the 27th, child H deteriorated rapidly and you were with nurse A. Yes, that date is not correct. No, okay. Is that actually a reference to this night, the 25th to the 26th? Yes. And to be fair to you, you then say a paragraph 103. In my memory, both nights merge into one. I cannot be specific about what I did during either of the collapses. Then you talk about the baby LO that we dealt with yesterday, to whom we will come in due course. Yes. Of course, just going back to your note at 2210, if a baby with 2 chest drains in, as child H was, had really desaturated to 52%, that would be potentially a serious medical issue, wouldn't it? Yes, if she didn't correct, yes. But you would call a doctor, wouldn't you? An SHO is present. Well, I know that's what you say, but I'm suggesting to you because there's no note. An SHO wasn't present and you have cooked the records. I don't agree. And you are creating, I suggest, in the handwritten documentation, the impression that child H was deteriorating in the lead-up to her more serious crash. No. Just going back to your nursing note at tile 208, please. We've read through this once, but if we can just expand the top, thank you. Where is the mention of this earlier desaturation before 2330? There isn't. With the SHO present? There isn't. Why not? Not every single thing gets written down. It's not being written down, and that's an error on my part. A serious error, isn't it, if it happened? But the SHO was present. Well, I know that's what you've written on the manuscript, a document, but there's no... Any member of... Hold on. There's no telling when you actually wrote that detail into that document, is there? Onto the handwritten document? No. There is telling when you wrote detail into this document, though, isn't there? Yes. Because we have an opening and a closing time. Yes. You wrote that detail on the handwritten document after child H had seriously desaturated and had a cardiac arrest, didn't you? No. And that is the explanation for why it doesn't appear in your nursing notes. No, those charts are available to everybody to see. If it was blank, or it had been added to later, that would have been noticed. Noticed by who? Other staff. When? The doctors would be looking at the charts. Other staff, nurses look at the charts. You're making this up as you're going along, aren't you? No. You wrote that in after child H had collapsed. No. And that's why you haven't written the name of the SHO, as with Dr. Wood in the case of child E. No. Isn't it? No, it's common practice just to write SHO or Reg. Your common practice? It can be, yes. I don't think every baby I've ever looked after every time I've written the name of the doctor. Often you don't even write SHO or Reg, do you? You write doctors. At times, yes, which all staff would do. But in your case, it seems to happen when babies collapse, doesn't it? I can't answer that. We're only looking at collapsed babies. We're not looking at my whole work over the duration of 4 years. Do you remember the evidence of child H's father that was agreed? Not in clarity right now, no. I just reminded you of it. Oh yes, that bit, yes. He left just before midnight. Yes. No mention of seeing his baby collapsing. No. No mention of a doctor being there. This is your lies in a document, isn't it? It's not lies. No.